Namaste and good morning, everybody. I am Yashaswini, and today we would be discussing about premenstrual syndrome and Ayurveda primarily from the perspective of Ayurveda, and also we'll be exploring um, the other part of the PMS as well. I've lived in Melbourne for a few years, and there was a very common thing about Melbourne's weather. And people used to say that it is like a woman's mood because it changes every 5 minutes, and it is so. Like it can go from 40 degree to 4 degree in a single afternoon. So the unpredictability of Melbourne's weather is always correlated with woman's mood, and you see, which is the primary comparison here. And I'm sure you have come across plenty of literature, plenty of jokes, plenty of funny quotes on women's mood and how unpredictable it can be. There is hardly anything in this universe which can be as volatile, as unpredictable, and which can swing from one end to the other in such a short span as anything that is related to female species. I'm not saying it's only about human beings, in general about feminine things, and more specifically about humans, because humans are primarily emotional and cognitive beings. There is fact and then there is fiction. See, the fact is that women are dynamic. They have a lot of things going on in them, and that is why it is very easy for them to swing, as well as because of the volatility, as well as because they have so much of subtle layers in them, and there is so much of things going on in a very rhythmic and cyclical pattern in a woman's body. They are very much prone for all kinds of variations. This is the fact. And then there is the fiction. You see, considering this fact, there is so much that is built on top of it. So you see, today we live in a world which is dominated by visual media, or anything that sells gets sold. So it could be chocolates, or it could be luxury stuff, or anything gets attached to this particular fact that women are volatile. And because of that, the primary event gets so much exaggerated that it becomes much more than what it is. So PMS is, or premenstrual features are fact, but how much of it is a fact or how much of it is true, when you look at it from how it is being projected, is something that we'll discuss today. See, there are actual disorders, like anatomical disorders, like a wound or anything, or even diabetes mellitus. They're actual disorders. And there are physiological variations, like, say, for example, the bit of variations that happens, what we call as premenstrual syndrome. It is physiological most of the times. And there is something that comes in between. PMS, when it crosses a certain line, it can become more of a diagnosable or treatable issue. I wouldn't call it a disease yet, but it can come to a state where it becomes a problem. But otherwise, it would have been in just a physiological range itself. It is necessary to give attention to this. It is necessary to identify it, but we have to also be mindful when we identify of how much of importance a topic really requires. And it is necessary to pin it to that, because unless we are able to differentiate this, there is full chance that that physiological issue can cross over to a psychological, more of a psychological challenge, because these are sensitive issues. And I'm specifically saying this from the perspective of teenagers and young adults, because they have to relate to their community, and unless they have a story to tell and also become the center of attraction, uh, they don't feel validated in their community. And PMS is one of the things that is bordering in it. It is a story to tell, it is a story to catch attention. So, this with this primary differentiation, that it should be given attention, but it should be pinned into a certain box as well, we will address PMS. So there are primarily, we say, two sets of features: the physical or physiological set, and then more of a psychological impact of it. Physically, there would be irregularity in appetite. There could be food cravings, craving for sweet or salty substances primarily, or there could be bloating as well, and the person may not be in a position to eat properly. And headaches, fatigue, different types of aches and pains, and these features would change depending upon the age of the person. In the teens, it is most probably like food cravings and aches and pains, which is primarily in the lower abdomen and the lower limbs. And later on, in young adults, it would be mostly like fatigue and tenderness, along with the aches and pains. And as the age advances, like 30 plus, or even in 40s, if at all there will be PMS, it will be mostly towards joint pains and fatigue. And the psychological patterns are pretty much similar all through. There will be mood swings of any kind, and there is high volatility. For a moment, the person may be feeling very happy, and with little or minor cause, it might lead to irritability, or there will be expression of anger, and there will be emotional vulnerability. Sometimes there would be increased anxiousness, and it can also lead to depression. Sleep difficulty in sleeping is also very, very common, and trouble concentrating is also pretty much there most of the times, but it is not as severe. If at all it reaches to a state where the person is not able to conduct usual activity in a normal manner, then we would call it as a diagnosable or treat as a condition which requires treatment. And all of this happens because it is the reproductive cycle. In the first half of the reproductive menstrual cycle, um, woman's body is preparing for the release of the egg and for mating. And this is totally driven by biology. It is for the purpose of reproduction. So in the first half of the cycle, she would be all be energetic, appearing to be more attractive and more interested sexually, and that is why more outgoing in nature. And if at all she's sexually active, then in the next half of the cycle, that is after the ovulation, that is when the body goes into conservation mode. It is there is a progesterone phase at that time. Earlier it was the estrogen phase, and then it goes into a progesterone phase, as you can see in this graph, the first one here. So the first graph here. Um, so it goes into a progesterone phase where the body thinks that there could be a chance of pregnancy. And if at all that is the case, it needs to protect the pregnancy, and it needs to conserve all of its energy for the growth of this. So it is an existential mode. So it is basically in a very, very primary level, it is trying for the survival of the species. And that is why it conserves everything. So as and how progesterone increases, progesterone is usually the calming type of hormone, and it kind of maintains a balance. But it is also the maternal hormone. It is the one that sustains the pregnancy, and it is the one that also has the capacity to fight off any of the adversities, so that it protects the fetus. So it is a very protective kind of hormone as well. So, if at all progesterone, if at all there is a circumstance where the woman she's very sensitive, and if at all there is a circumstance where she suspects or she finds any kind of threat, that is when all of her defense systems suddenly becomes active. In the absence of pregnancy as well, because the body still doesn't know to differentiate if at all there is a pregnancy or not until the period has happened, it would still be in the protective mode. And that is why in the luteal phase, or that is in the second half of the second half of the menstrual cycle, we gradually see the woman going or becoming more and more sensitive, more and more defensive. If at all she is calm, she's excellent, she's wonderfully calm, but the moment she finds anything that is even slightly offensive, she suddenly can turn on into a very defensive organism. And that is all because of these two hormone interplay. And we'll look at it in more details. We'll now look at the root of progesterone, or how these hormones are, secreted or developed. You see, all of these hormones are steroid hormones, or they come from fats. And cholesterol is the mother of all of these hormones in the body. So, good quality of cholesterol is required, good quality of fat is required for the body. From cholesterol, you can see in this chart, I somehow am not able to find the arrow to show, but yeah, you can see in this chart that from cholesterol, we have the synthesis of progesterone, and from progesterone and its derivatives, we have further going down, we have testosterone, and then there is estrogen. From progesterone, we also have cortisol, which is the primary stress hormone. So, whenever there is a situation of stress, progesterone gets converted into cortisol more and more. And if at all there is not a situation of stress, then progesterone would go into its normal functions. So, some amount of cortisol conversion would still be there because it has to maintain the regulation. But if at all there is a stressful situation, more progesterone is converted into cortisol, and there is imbalance in the primary progesterone level in the luteal phase. And here in the next picture here in this square, you can see the interaction of estrogen and progesterone with different types of neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are necessary for the usual functioning of the nervous system, for excitation or suppression of any kind of activity. And there are four important sets that we discuss here: the glutamatergic, the GABAergic, and dopaminergic, and serotonergic. Now, of these, the dopaminergic as well as serotonergic are the ones that are also involved with dopamine and serotonin, along with endorphins and oxytocin. These are the ones that maintain the usual happy, calm, and the normal loving status of mind of general human beings, or especially with women in this context. These are called happy hormones. And dopamine and serotonin are also neurotransmitters. which work with along with these other two neurotransmitters as well. And you see the action of estrogen and progesterone on these. Uh, because estrogen and progesterone have got such a deep impact on other hormones along with the neurotransmitters, these have these can impact on behavior of all of the systems of the body, and it is not just the reproductive system that is at work here. The glutamate is related with cognitive process like the memory and learning, and GABA is related with very primal activities, that is like protection of the species, existential instincts, and that is why it is also related to anxiety. And if at all it is not properly balanced or inhibited, it causes anxiety. And the one that can inhibit GABA is the dopamine, and dopamine is also related with the usual pleasure and decision making, and it also controls the motor activity. So the finer muscle movements as well as the movements of the skeletal muscles is all dependent on very much dependent upon dopamine. And serotonin is mostly influencing the sleep cycle, the sexual behavior, or the affection, the mood, and also it will influence the cognitive behavior. So there is so much of things going on, which is dependent upon the influence of um, estrogen and progesterone in women. And fluctuations of these hormones can cause a severe fluctuation in all of these functions. Usually, it is maintained in a very rhythmic fashion, and so in balanced individual, you won't see that. You would see the shift, but it would not be pathological. But suppose there is a situation of stress, or there are any challenges externally or internally, this may be highlighted, and that is physiological. Now, all of those things that we have discussed now would come under the category of Vata, the functions of Vata from Ayurvedic perspective. It could be the maintenance of rhythmicity or the cyclicity of the whole of the process, or it could be the functions of the neurotransmitters as we discussed, the regulation of the mood, the regulation of the motor activities, the maintenance of the cognition functions, and basically maintaining the activity. Initiation as well as maintenance of all of these activities are all coming under the functions of Vata. And when the movement or activity of Vata is obstructed by any reason, that there is congestion, then you see the disturbance. So all of these that we discussed earlier as the features of PMS are basically the impaired functions of Vata. When the functions of Vata are impaired, you would, in any case, with or without periods, it's possible to see all of these functions. So, all of these features. So basically, in any of the situations, wherever you see all of these features or any of these features, it would be dysfunction of Vata. And dysfunction of Vata in these cases, it would be because of the condition, or it would be because of blockage to the regular pathway of Vata. And so, from Ayurvedic perspective, we would be treating this as a primary case where you need to regulate the Vata. And to regulate Vata, it is pretty simple. You need to give all of these things which are quite opposite to the features of Vata. So start with warmth, start with moisture as well as movement. So it could be in the form of food, it could be in the form of physical treatment, therapy, activity, whatever it is, and also the mental activity. So it is warmth, moisture, and movement that is required.
Could you please explain one part about this? I understand the warmth, I understand the moisture, but movement is aligned with Vata, but not opposite to Vata. Could you please explain this part?
Yes, when there is congestion, the Vata is not able to move in its proper channel. So it is mostly like it is swirling in that one part whenever there is congestion, or it is going in an opposite direction. And this you can say as in the language of neurotransmitters or hormones. You can say that it is triggering the inhibition or excitation of synapses. So the feedback mechanism is not working properly. So all of these are in the scientific terms, and in Ayurvedic terms, you'd say that it is going in a wrong pathway, a wrong direction. So to bring it back to its normal direction, as well as to bring the ease of movement. Once you give warmth and moisture, you expect the condition to be sorted, and then the movement, primarily of Apanavata here, because you need the downward flow of things, not the upward flow of things in this case. So the congestion should be sorted, and the downward movement of Vata should be facilitated. And
Okay,
that
thank you.
happens by physical activity as well. So stretching and exercise, all of these movements. Just to mention here, when a PMS becomes too severe that it needs medical attention, it is coined as PMDD, or premenstrual dysphoric disorder. That is when these features are extremely severe and needs medical attention. So, coming back to the management, you would be looking at stabilizing Agni first. So, see, women, the body of a woman is primarily Agneya, or it is predominant with the properties of Agni. And along with Agni, there should be proper functioning of Vata. So here we would focus on stabilizing Agni, and that will bring warmth as well as some amount of moisture there. And then we would expect warmth and moisture to bring or facilitate the movement and bring balance in Apanavata. So we have to build the Rasa Dhatu, stabilize Agni, and balance Vata here. And that is those are the three simple things you need to focus to bring PMS into a normal state or physiological state. I would like to tell you about the interaction of ashwagandha and shatavari, two very complementary herbs, and especially in this context. But I would also like to bring much focus on these small activities that are so much related with femininity, that is being or that is uh, becoming rarer these days, given the modern definition of femininity, but are so much related to those four happy hormones that we discussed earlier. So, you see, there are certain activities that are related with or that are associated with women traditionally. It could be gardening or picking flowers or embroidery, dancing, knitting, music, and so on. Why are these specifically associated with women? It is not that men do not find use in it, or men do not have those talents, but they are associated with women specifically because of their utility, or the kind of effect it has in women's regular cycle, or this kind of rhythmic pattern of hormones. I cannot tell you how important it is to stretch muscles, or do the muscular activity, small muscles as well as the long muscles, by applying your mind to it, as something as mundane as knitting or embroidery, or even as satisfying as a full stretch or yoga. When you apply your mind and do a kind of muscular activity, it is so good for your nervous system that it releases most of those happy hormones that we discussed earlier. It brings your neurotransmitters and hormones to a unison, and then your whole of your mind and body are connected there. So any of these activities that connects your mind and body, like when you enjoy any certain any activity, it could be relaxing or it could be energizing, any of these activity where you connect both mind and body, that is when you bring the nervous system, hormonal system, and all of your systems into unison. And this kind of balance is extremely necessary for the regular maintenance of this system in women. And traditionally, women are nurturers, they are caregivers, um, and sharing is the nature. So, the more they share, either by talking to friends or anybody they need to share, they have to speak out. And it could also be giving out love. It could be in the form of gardening, it could be in the form of a pet or anything. So give love and share things, so that it is again giving you back the same oxytocin feeling, the same serotonin. When you're in love, when you are sharing, it is oxytocin and serotonin that is working in your body, and that is why there is happy feeling. So these are all of the things that are specifically done for maintenance of balance during PMS. The more you isolate, the more we keep it to ourselves, there is more congestion, and that is again triggering all of the features of PMS, triggering the features of congestion of vata. So to move, you have to mobilize, you have to reconnect within yourself as well as with the external world. Rest, reconnect, and rejuvenate. So, coming to the food activities in mind, I indulge in pacifying or calming foods. Reduce added sugar, reduce caffeine or extremely salty or pungent foods, and minimize alcohol, or if possible, bring avoid alcohol, especially to the level of where it can trigger, and also avoid processed fat. Indulge in natural good type of fats, but avoid fats. And it is also important to maintain regular meal time during this period, so that there is a regularity for vata. An activity, avoid sitting for a very long time, because that again builds congestion. And regular good exercise, especially stretching, and also regular and good quality of night sleep. Make a habit of this, and that is that will balance out vata in a very good manner. And it is more important to balance mind and thoughts. So decongesting the stressful situation is very important, and it includes the digital stress. So limit the kind of exposure you have with either social media or all of these kind of interactive influencing media. And indulge in content that can build sattva, either from the digital platform or even otherwise, in anything that can build the sattva and that can promote a calming and stabilizing feature in the mind. So cultivate those things and decongest the stress. These are the most important things. So that is about PMS, and we'll be discussing or we'll be taking few questions.
Okay, let's see if we have any questions.
Yes, we have one about ashwagandha and shatavari, so
Yeah.
we'll take that. Yes. So, ashwagandha and shatavari, they are two very complementing herbs, complementing to each other in their properties as well as how they behave in the body. Um, See, Shatavari is very calming. It is soothing as well as it is a mild, sweet substance, uh, and it is more nourishing in nature. In a sense, you can equate it to the properties of progesterone, and hence it is also given for the protection of pregnancy throughout pregnancy as well as during lactation. You can give shatavari. Ashwagandha, on the other hand, is very agneya in nature. It is a stimulant. It also gives a relaxing effect, but it is also stimulatory in nature, and it is the one which activates and energizes. And you cannot say or you cannot equate it to estrogen, but then it is very similar to estrogen or testosterone in nature. Or if at all you have to say, they both act as estrogen and progesterone. And hence, a combination of Shatavari and Ashwagandha is fantastic for the regulation of women's overall cyclical behavior. And depending upon the prakriti of the person, you may choose to go for a bit more of Shatavari or a bit more of Ashwagandha. Again, depending upon the features and depending upon the prakriti of the person. For some people, Ashwagandha becomes a little too intense, and for some people, Shatavari may cause more of weight gain. So it is necessary to see the prakriti, assess from Ayurvedic point of view, because you're giving it from the Ayurvedic principles. So you have to assess it in in that way, and then utilize these two herbs. But they work in combination. They work fantastic. How to use it and what are the limitations? These are the next two questions, so I'll address them
Okay.
together. So, um, see, when we give ashwagandha or shatavari for the rasayana purpose or for a broader purpose, then the ideal way is to use it in the form of avaleha, which is a combination compound of many herbs and many substances. Or you can also use it as the whole powder, plain single herb powder, uh, which is usually given with milk. But in case of PMS, specifically for the purpose of PMS, I wouldn't suggest either ways because PMS is primarily due to um, the irregularity of Agni as well as a congestion of Vata. And hence, both of these combinations, either having it with milk or giving it in the form of avaleha, unless Agni is corrected, will not give any good result. And hence, in case of PMS, I would always suggest to go in the form of medicine, yeah, of like a compound herb, but in the form of tablet. So I would always suggest go for multi-herbal compound, not a single herb compound. You may choose ashwagandha as a single herb compound if at all that is the one that is primarily required for that particular person. As I said, assessment of prakriti is necessary, and depending upon the prakriti, you either choose ashwagandha dominant or shatavari dominant, and give it in the form of a multi-herbal compound, not as a single substance, and especially when it is shatavari. If the anxiety and some of the features which demand ashwagandha is dominant, then you may choose to give an ashwagandha tablet as a single herb. But there would be very less chance where you would want to give shatavari as a single herb. So I wouldn't suggest that yet in PMS.
Okay. Could you please maybe explain some basics of choosing between Ashwagandha dominant and Shatavari dominant combinations, in Prakriti, different Prakritis?
If the person's kapha is extremely feeble, that there is no feature of kapha at all, then you would give a Shatavari and Ashwagandha equal. If there is extreme pitta as well, then also you would want to choose more of Shatavari probably and less of Ashwagandha. So pitta and peak and absolutely no kapha, that is where you would choose more of Shatavari. If it is dominant with vata, then you can go for 60-40 ratio of ashwagandha and shatavari. You would still need ashwagandha primarily, but back up with shatavari.
Okay. Could you please explain the condition with feeble kapha? Was it equal portions with a slight dominance of Shatavari? Was it like that?
When there is feeble kapha, yes, you can go for 60-40. When there is when kapha is less and pitta is more, that is when you have to reduce the proper ratio of ashwagandha. If kapha is
Mhm.
less and there is, I mean, even you don't even see regular pitta, then you would need a different combination. So that is what I was going to come back to explain. So then there would be a condition where Agni is primarily low, and hence you see the kshaya or uh, pacified status of all of those doshas, or all the doshas like rasa dhatu also and rock bottom, or kapha is also feeble, vata is feeble, and so is pitta. So all of these doshas are very feeble, not energetic at all, and along with that, Agni is also low. In such conditions, you wouldn't give ashwagandha or shatavari. You would rather give something to improve Agni. So, there's always a combination of herbs. It is not just two. These two are primary. Keep them in the core, and always add other herbs to enhance or to improve the functions of these. So, um, whenever you need something to improve Agni and also to do the decongesting activity, you can add dry ginger powder. And if at all sleep is an issue and psychological variations are an issue, then you can also add Jatamamsi to it. And if at all there is bowel irregularity, you can add Triphala to it, and bowel or gut basically. So to improve Agni is important. If the person is also having features of insulin variations or high blood sugar and things like that, then you can add cinnamon to it. So depending upon the situation, I have different combinations, and you do have many of these ready mixes in the form of tablets available in the market also. So here, I mean, specifically speaking from the point of view of PMS, I wouldn't suggest to go for single herb, especially not Shatavari and Shatavari alone. So it should always be in combination, because Shatavari, after all, is a cooling herb, and we don't cooling extra cooling will cause congestion. So unless it is specifically advised that you need congestion, unless it is specifically indicated, don't go for Shatavari as a single herb. You may still choose ashwagandha as single herb, but you don't choose Shatavari as single herb in case of PMS.
Okay, could you please explain a little thing? There was this condition of basically weakened everything, Agni, doshas, rasa, dhatu, and you said that it's not these no ashwagandha and no shatavari will be a single solution. So this should be a situation for multi-component drugs, right?
Yes, And that is
Okay,
when we
and
give the combination of, or prefer the combination of shunti or dry ginger and triphala or trikatu or cinnamon or things like that in mixture in the mixture along with these two or one of these. There was a question here about Shatavari. I think it is continuation of what we were discussing. So I've written the answers in the chat box here. The one before that question was about yoga during menstruation, right? So, which asanas are allowed during menstruation? And can we do yoga during menstruation or during PMS? Yes, during PMS as well as during menstruation, yoga is good. During menstruation, I would definitely say that indulge in yoga only if you feel like. Menstruation, the period of menstruation is specifically for resting and also to um, mm, you know reconnect with your body. So if you feel like, if you're up to doing movements and doing these asanas, you can do. If at all the menstruation, the flow is not normal, then also you can do. But if the flow is normal or excess, and you don't feel like indulging in any kind of muscular activity, then no, don't do it. So it is totally subjective. You have to be in sync with your body to know if you want to do or not do. And that alone will say if you can do or not do. The second thing is, if at all you want to do, which ones to do. Don't do any of the inverse postures. So anything that involves lifting the lower body higher in a higher plane, don't do those. So always go in the normal direction. You may do a bit of stretching in the same plane or bending forwards or backwards, but never lift the lower part upwards than the plane of the body. And don't exert too much of pressure on abdomen. So these are the general guidelines. Do we have any other question here that have not been addressed?
Okay, so there is also a question about some food products and herbs that can replenish progesterone if it's if Shatavari is unavailable, for example.
If Shatavari is not available, then you can go for any substance which has more rasa in it. So substance, any of those substances which have natural sweetness in it, it contains natural sweetness and has got more anabolic effect in the body, and also it would be useful if it has if it has got more to the rasadhatu, and more to rasadhatu you can see when a substance is more juicy or produces something like a milk. So shatavari is a tuber, and that tuber, if you grind it and squeeze it, it gives something which is very similar to milk. So any of these milk and substances which can give out milk, like the nuts, say almond, you can squeeze out almond milk out of it. So any of those that can squeeze out milk from it are all in the same category. Now, some of those may also be a bit more Ushna than Shatavari. Shatavari is extreme cooling in nature. Some of those may have a bit more Ushna nature as well into it. Almond also has oil in it, and that is why it would have a bit of Ushna tinge to it. It is not as sweet or as cooling as Shatavari. Shatavari has no oil in it. So that is how you differentiate from Ayurvedic perspective. So something that has got oil as well as milk would be balanced with Ushna and Shita. Something which has minimal amount of oil and has more amount of milk would be more Shita. and something which has got more oil and less of milk, like in other nuts, like walnut, has more oil in it. So all of these would come under the category of anabolic substances. But does it have more oil or does it have more milk? This is the differentiating factor. More milk, more cooling, more oil, more Ushna. And if at all it is neither milk nor oil but more of watery substance, then it would be instantly replenishing, but it will not be giving a long term anabolic effect. So, that is the simplified version. And there's one question about what time is best for women's health to go to bed and also to get up. Well, this is very difficult to answer because it goes along with the circadian rhythm and also depends upon what time the natural setting is there in your region. But generally, I would say, like with the adjustment of artificial light and all of those things, something between 10 a.m. Is ideal. Yeah, do your own adjustments depending upon the time zones as well as the sunlight period in your area. Do you have anything left unanswered here?
So are there maybe some combination? One more question about ashwagandha and shatavari. It's in English actually. It's somewhere in the middle. Are there any combinations with milk and ghee? And this question, can you see it?
The shatavari with milk, shatavari or ashwagandha with milk. Yes, these are rasayana combinations, and they are good. Yeah. In fact, for rasayana purpose, whenever we use for rasayana purpose, as I mentioned earlier, that is how you would generally give it, with milk and ghee on top. However, I refrain from using that combination in general in today's world because very rarely we have anything that is so that requires that kind of combination in the long run. We do not have so much of depletion related pure depletion related features in today's world. Rather, the depletion is more because there is imbalance of Agni. And when there is imbalance of Agni, and that has led to depletion, giving more of milk and giving more of ashwagandha or shatavari or more of anabolic substance in milk or ghee wouldn't help you because that will lead to more of congestion and can lead to obesity, not for replenishing. So, to give that combination, the primary requirement is that there should be excellent Agni in the body, good metabolism, and along with that, when there is depletion, then you choose that kind of rasayana. Otherwise, that combination is not ideal in today's world.
Okay, and are there some requirements about using ashwagandha and shatavari during the day, for example, in the morning or in the evening?
If in the form of whole herb powder, then yes, it would be ideal to use it in the morning, early morning, when on empty stomach, or at night before going to bed, giving good at least 1.5 to 2 hours gap from dinner. So you would want your digestive system to be optimum and in optimum level of working to be able to receive and digest these herbs. If at all you're taking it in a combination of other herbs or in the form of tablets, where it is either extract or the combination of other digestive herbs along with it, then you can take it at any time depending upon the need. So I would generally give it sometimes after meals as well, or like 10 o'clock in the morning and or 6 o'clock in the evening. So these are the times, especially when there is overlap of time or junction of two times, like say in the evening when it's the day end of the day and beginning of the night, or morning by 10 o'clock when there is overlap of kapha to pitta. So those are the times that we generally choose.
Mhm. Okay, could you please repeat the time for evening administration when there is day to night transition?
Like 6 o'clock is generally in the in the tropics, or you can say 1 hour before sunset. So, thank you very much for joining, everybody. It is a pleasure to meet all of you here. Thank you.